Yo, 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 welcome back to another episode of Unwritten with Thomas Malpass. In this episode, very special episode that I thoroughly enjoyed. It's about Denzil Eden, a young entrepreneur who managed to gain millions of dollars in investment backing and startup funding for her Smarty app, a productivity AI app. She's a young entrepreneur who started coding at 8 years of age and is now working on her project, Smarty AI, which is now out. If you want to go check it out, go check it out. In this episode, we explore her journey into entrepreneurship, the creation of Smarty, and how she balances the hands-on technical work of coding and being a bottleneck in her business. And we also discuss her insights on productivity tips, AI literacy, the future of AI, and how scary it could be. And as a bonus, we uncover our secret fetishes of fantasy novels, anime, comic books, and more. Subscribe, review, and most of all, enjoy. Thank you so much for anyone who listens. Thank you. Enjoy the episode. See you. Welcome to the Unwritten Podcast with your host, Thomas Malpass, where we are on a mission to help the world find more purpose, passion, and peace in their everyday lives. Through deep conversations and connection, tune in because we are all on this journey of life together.
Cool. And then, is it going to take 2 hours? Probably not, right?
It just depends on how much you talk. Some people like to talk. Some people like to go deeper. Some people are just like blunt. I like to go deeper because I like to try to get to know all of my guests on a deeper level.
Amazing. I'm definitely down to go deeper, and I'll probably be somewhere in the middle from like the longest and the shortest guest.
So like an hour. That's
Yeah.
like my average.
Yeah, I'm assuming an hour.
Okay. Well, Denzil.
Denzil. Yeah.
Like pencil.
Yeah.
Denzil. Okay.
Or Denzel, but like Denzil. Like Denzel Washington.
How about Eden? Can I just call you Eden?
You can call me Eden, but I prefer Denzil.
You don't like your last name?
I do like it. I made it.
You made your last name?
Yeah.
What?
When I got married, we made up a new last name.
Really? Why?
Yeah. So that we would both like create a new family name.
You don't like your old family names?
We do, but we wanted to create something that was like just us.
Like
instead of picking one or the other.
What made you choose Eden?
It's a combination of our first names. So if you write my name and my partner's name right next to each other, Eden's right in the middle.
Is his name like Ed or something?
It's Lane. So E from Lane, Den from Denzil. And then because my name ends in an L and his name starts in an L, you can write it in a circle. So it's hard to explain.
Yeah.
But there's like a lot of reasons to pick Eden. There was like some family significance. There's obviously the symbolic meaning. It's in the middle of both of our first names. So it just worked well.
But you don't like to be called it?
I do, but I prefer my first name. Okay. Professionally. Yeah.
Okay, well, Denzil, welcome to the Unwritten Podcast. My first question is, can you tell me who Denzil is and why you ultimately chose this path that has brought you to what seems like the beginnings of a new success in AI and entrepreneurship.
I hope so. Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here. And I guess how I would describe myself today is just an independent entrepreneur, someone who's very curious and always trying new things. And I think I've started a startup now. It's called Smarty, and all of my life experiences have really like led me to this point. And it seems really clear with hindsight that this is almost like what I was always meant to be doing. I grew up in California in the Bay Area, and I started coding really young in life. I was 8 years old. I learned Logo, which is like a kid's programming language at school, and it just instantly clicked for me. Like the first day I learned at school, I came home and I was like, I want to be a coder when I grow up. And my mom was like, are you sure you don't want to be a doctor? And I was like, no, this is like what I like. I like
Generational.
yeah, I like the logic behind it. I like how much it makes sense to me. And I kind of just kept at it until I went to college. And even when I was in college, I wasn't at that point like completely convinced that I wanted to be programming and being in like a little cubicle and just like reading off of specs and making things. So I tried a bunch of different careers. I tried out law, I tried out finance, I tried out teaching, but I kept finding myself coming back to building and wanting to like build things from scratch and make them into products that people use. And it's been a long journey, but I feel like every step I've taken has brought me to this point where I'm now working on a productivity tool. I used to work in productivity at my first big corporate job. I am now a founder, so I'm doing a lot of business things as well as coding things. And I went to business school, and it helps. It makes sense that I was able to do that, and I'm here now. So I guess that's who I would describe myself as a builder, as a curious, always willing to try new things person.
So when you were trying like different things, were you still like practicing coding as like a hobby or what?
When I started my first big corporate job, it was at Microsoft, and I was actually a PM. So I was still technical, but I was more on the product side, and I wasn't coding on my day to day. And so I missed it. I started really wanting to code again, but I wasn't sure how to be more technical at my job. And so I actually started teaching computer science on the side. I started as a professor at a community college, and then I started teaching at a state university as a guest lecturer. I was teaching Java 101, and I really loved it. I love teaching other people how to think about code and being able to translate that passion into education. I had a really good time. And I had good like professor reviews, but I realized that like I don't actually like teaching as much as I like coding and teaching people like showing people the way code works. So I ended up switching jobs at Microsoft to being a software engineer at Yammer, and I also started looking into other jobs where code could help, like software could help them run their business more efficiently. So I remember I started working for the like this politics group, trying to help them use software to be more efficient. I started working with this lawyer. I tried this like finance thing. And so I was still kind of searching for more, and I didn't know what I was missing, but I knew that coding was part of it.
So you sound like a very, very hands-on person.
I am, which isn't always like what you need to be as someone who's like running a business, but I enjoy being hands-on.
How has that been for you? Start
It
your business.
I think when you're running a business, you really need to sometimes do more high level things, more administrative things. You also need to be more thinking about the general roadmap and strategy, not just like a few days out, but like a month out, a year out. And building is very much my comfort zone. It's where I like to go when I'm feeling overwhelmed with everything else, but
Mm.
it's not the best use of my time. So it's actually kind of a a weird push and pull as I try to balance doing work that I find really fulfilling and also doing work that actually will move the business forward. So it's a balance that I'm still trying to figure out.
What have you been doing to figure that out?
I've been trying to time block my time to really think about every week on a strategic level. What are the main goals for this week? How much time is needed for that? And then planning out how much time I spend actually coding or playing around with the product, and making sure that I feel like I'm giving enough time to everything that needs my time. And sometimes visualizing that on my calendar through time blocking makes me feel more confident that I'm spending my time in the right ways. I'm also trying
Yeah.
to like have themes around days. So like Tuesday is my day of talking to users and trying to do more conversations like this. Thursdays are the day where I'm like more heads down, like thinking about what needs to be done with the product. Wednesdays are when I talk to my advisors and my investors. And so like trying to create like more structure in a very strategic way has also helped me.
That's kind of what I do. Like that's how I manage my day to day. But I
There's
don't have
research.
it like I don't have I manage it day to day. I don't
Yeah.
manage it. Like I'm
Instead of
like,
planning
wait,
it
how do
out.
I yeah, like how do I feel today? Like is today gonna be like a more logical day, or is today gonna be a more creative day, or do I even feel like working today? Not just kidding.
No, I get that because like you need time to like self-care and recharge. Like
Hmm.
otherwise you're going to get burned out. And so I wish I had a little bit more flexibility where I could just like decide like okay, today is going to be a creative day when actually my day
Hmm.
is like already planned out as like user interviews or like meetings
Oh
day. So
yeah.
I don't have as much flexibility, but I can plan out like on a more longer term scale. And that helps me like seeing like knowing Tuesdays are the days where I'm going to be talking to a bunch of people. Like that helps me plan out the rest of my week where I'm like managing my energy levels.
Do you know the reason why you decided to ultimately create, what exactly is it? It's a tool. Was it an app? Is it like a software program? Is it like a Salesforce type thing where it's just pure like software as a service? And why do you think like you felt compelled to create this thing?
Yeah, so I'm working on Smarty, and we're trying to be this AI powered executive assistant in the form of a conversational calendar. And so the goal really with Smarty is that I can use conversational commands to talk to Smarty and automate things that I have to get done. And we're mostly focused on administrative work, work that you would use an EA for. And so I can say something like coffee with Stella at Blue Bottle in San Francisco at 2 p.m. London time, and Smarty will know the right people, the right location, the right time and time zone, and send a calendar invite to both of us. And that's just in calendar management, but Smarty has conversational commands for scheduling, link management, task management, email management, contact management. So we're trying to be this full-fledged EA in the form of a software tool with the goal of like empowering the user, so empowering me. And so I really started building Smarty for myself. I started off as a chatbot that I would like chat commands to, and it would either add it to my to-do list or try to get it done. And it kind of grew from there. And that's still the ultimate vision. And it is exactly a SaaS model. So we have a 7-day free trial and then a monthly subscription. And the product is live today. You can check it out at smarty.ai. And I started building it for myself because I was feeling so overwhelmed. I was in grad school and I felt like I had so much to do for school, so much to do for my personal life, to figure out my career for like the next step post school. And I knew that technology could automate a lot of the work that I was doing on a day to day basis. Actually, today, I think there are like so many research studies around this that over 60% of the work you do every day could easily be automated with existing technology. And so I wanted to build that. I wanted to build that solution. And I really believe it's going to be a conversational interface where you can just chat with it and it will understand your intent and try to get it done for you. And so that's how I started building Smarty. And I'm still really passionate about this vision. And we're on our way to getting there.
What I envision is I envision like Tony Stark
Jarvis.
talk. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what
No,
I
I do
envision.
too. I mean,
Yeah.
I grew up on those same things. I love Tony Stark. Probably one of my favorite Marvel characters.
I think he is. I think he is my favorite.
He also went to MIT, so it's like I'm definitely a little biased.
Oh, I didn't know that they had like real world schools in there.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of school, somebody who's trying to get into those schools that you went to, those schools are kind of prestigious, I think. Um, what would you tell somebody who's trying to get into those schools?
Yeah, I think so. I went to MIT for undergrad and then I went to Harvard for business school, and they're both so different and they both value
Mm,
very different things. And I think it's really obvious when you get there too that they value very different things. And business school, of course, is like very different than undergraduate school. And
yeah.
so to getting into a prestigious undergraduate school, at the end of the day, it's sad but like very true how much like credentials matter, like your SAT score
Mm,
matters, your AP scores matter, your GPA matters. But one thing that I will say about MIT specifically, you don't have to be amazing at everything. It is a science and technology based school. And so if you are extremely passionate about science and technology and building, that is something that MIT values pretty highly. And so even if your scores, your academic scores don't match up, if you've done something transformative or amazing with technology and you can talk about it and show that passion, I think MIT weighs that very heavily and will give a lot of credit to that. But I think in general, a lot of it does just come down to being good at school. And I think being good
mm,
at school at the end of the day is just a lot of about hard work and focus. Like I worked very hard in high school, and I'm not sure if that is the best educational system. I think as an adult, I personally learn best by doing and experimenting and building, and I
mm.
don't think high school optimizes for that, unfortunately. It doesn't teach
I
you how to live
agree.
in the real world.
No, I agree 100%. Like, I don't think they have a course on how to do your taxes.
Oh my god. I just did taxes for myself personally, and then I still have to do taxes for business for Smarty,
Oh
and it
yeah,
is
it's completely different.
so hard. Like taxes should not be this hard. The government should just do it for you and just tell you how much you owe. Like what a waste of
Oh
everyone's
no, that
time.
is true. You know
Crazy.
what? You know what? That's a good idea for your
Yeah.
Smarty.
Yeah. Do it for you. I
Smarty,
wish.
do my taxes.
Yeah. Oh, maybe one day. It would be amazing. That would be like the ultimate vision for sure. But it's definitely not where I want to start.
So how can like the everyday person use this? Like, let's say you're not a in the entrepreneur world. Um, let's say you're just a burger flipper.
Totally.
How
So
is
the
this
goal with
beneficial?
Smarty is that it's not for the tech savvy. It's really for someone who just like needs a web interface to interact and like brain dump all of their tasks and thoughts. So the way you access Smarty today is you can just go to smarty.ai. It's a web app, so you can just log in on your web browser, whether it's Chrome or Safari or Firefox, and there's quick onboarding. And the goal is that you just type in and use these keyboard shortcuts to brain dump all of your tasks into Smarty. We are trying to make it as user friendly as possible. And the users that we have today, they are small business owners, freelancers, solopreneurs like me, people who are just, trying to have a second brain that helps them manage all of the work they have to do so that they can spend time on actually doing the work they have to do. And that's kind of
Mm.
a quote that we get from users a lot who are using Smarty.
So how could I use it as a podcaster?
So, as whenever we schedule calls, like you can send like a Smarty scheduling link to whoever. But the way that you create a scheduling link, instead of using like a Calendly link and having all of your times available at all times, you can just say something like, if you had a coworker, I have a coworker, Kimmy. If I needed to send a client my availability and Kimmy's availability for next Thursday and Friday, I can just type into Smarty next Thursday, Friday with Kimmy, strategy session, and Smarty will create a scheduling link for both of our availabilities from that one command, and I can send it to that client. I can also just send dates and times. I don't have to actually send a scheduling link. Smarty will auto generate like exactly like Thursday from 3 to 5 p.m., Friday from 2 to 4 p.m., and I can just paste it into my email, which I also access through Smarty.
Would it be like integrated? Like
It'd be integrated with your Google Calendar, with your Google email, and you can manage multiple accounts. So we actually have a bunch of podcast hosts who use Smarty, and we have one podcast host who has different podcasts on different Google accounts, and so he manages his calendar for all of those accounts just in Smarty. Okay. So when he creates a scheduling link, it's for his availability across all of the Google Calendar accounts.
Okay. But it could do a lot more than scheduling.
Yes. So like a big thing that a lot of our small business owners use it for is like auto scheduling tasks. So something that you can do in Smarty is say something like review invoices before March 31st. It'll take me 2 hours, and Smarty will auto schedule it onto your calendar. Find times for you to get tasks done before the deadline, and it'll prioritize them based off like urgency or importance. So you can say like, this is low priority, this is high priority, and then you can just type this out and just continue to brain dump into Smarty. And then if you don't get a task done before a specific date or time, you don't have to manually reschedule it. Smarty will automatically move it to the next available time slot you have.
So essentially, it's a AI assistant kind of.
Pretty much. AI assistant to help you visualize and manage your time.
And it's most beneficial for like, I guess, the preneurship world.
Exactly. Like the solopreneur, the freelancer, someone who's managing a lot of either different businesses or a lot of different maybe. Like work. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So I guess coming from a productivity side, is there any way, I guess without the use of AI or with the use of AI, that we can just plan our days out better in general?
So at Smarty, we try to take some of the best research-backed tactics around productivity and integrate it into the product. So it's a no-brainer for you, but Smarty's automatically applying those best practices around time blocking your time, being able to visualize your time, being able to track your time. Smarty makes it easy to do all of those things, and you don't have to like manually like move things on your calendar or manually like track which projects are getting done and how much time you're spending on which project. So like we use a lot of like research-backed productivity hacks to do the automations that we provide at Smarty. In terms of like how you as like a knowledge worker can do something manually, I think those are like the best time tracking productivity hacks. It's time block your calendar, like everything you have to get done, put it onto your calendar so you can see when you're doing it, why you're doing it then, and you can manage both like as we were talking about energy levels, right? Like if you know that you're going to have the best energy to do administrative work in the morning, you should be scheduling that into your morning. And I think AI, that's one of the best things about AI. I like to call it the 3 pillars of AI. AI is predictive, proactive, and personalized. And by predictive, what I really mean is that AI can look at your past behavior and past data and predict and proactively help you get it done. Like this is the best time for you to do administrative work because you get that done most successfully from 9 to 11 a.m. in the past. Things like that.
So then what explains the cat feeds that pop up on my YouTube?
I think that's another thing that like AI can help with is like keeping you focused and like limiting distractions and also like making intentional time around when are you on YouTube. And then in terms of feed around like whether
what explains that?
whether it's giving you the right content or not. I mean, that is usually based off like other people who have seen this video have also liked this video. So there are clearly people like you who watch the same videos as you that like the cat videos as well.
But sometimes like I never watched it.
Yeah.
Like some of my feed, like I've never had anything. It's like unrelated to anything.
Totally. It's not really based off just your data. It's based off data of people like you. So there's some version of a person like you who also likes cat videos. So YouTube is like, you like cat
Okay.
videos too.
But that's part of that like predictive AI.
That is, it's the only problem with that is it's not as personalized to who you are. It's actually predicting on like a large population.
Like a broader.
Yeah. But like the goal with like all these advancements that we're seeing in AI is that the data is going to get more and more accurate and more personalized to you. So one day, someone who is like almost exactly like you, but not totally, will get the cat videos, but you won't.
That's scary though.
It is, but it's also at the same time exciting because there's going to be a lot of benefits that come out of that. Like we're talking about YouTube right now, but it's also going to make education a lot better, more personalized, more democratized. I think, how cool would it be if a AI teacher knows what you like to learn, knows how you like to learn, and then provides you exactly the right video that you need for whatever you're stuck on a homework problem, or like knows exactly how to explain something to you versus to me because I learn maybe more visually or more auditorily while you learn more through like doing and through experiments, right? And so I think that personalization element, while scary, is going to have so many benefits. And I'm bringing up education right now, but there's also medical benefits. There's also just like education. There's social interactions, like helping you meet the right people at the right time. So I think I am very optimistic about what AI is capable of bringing to society.
Well, before my next question, I don't think we covered how did you raise millions of dollars?
For Smarty,
Yeah.
yeah, it was a long journey. Raising money in the startup world is not easy. And if anything, it's actually harder today than when I raised. Because when I raised in 2020 and then again in 2022, there was a lot of excitement for just growth and interest in a product. And so with Smarty, I grown a wait list of over 8,000 users. I've had over 8,000 people like try some version of Smarty, even if it was really bad and they turned off. There was someone who tried the product, and there was a lot of excitement around the value proposition of like what we're trying to provide with Smarty. But today, the venture climate has completely changed. It's all about, can you make money with this idea? And we are still trying to prove out that we can make money with this idea, and that's something that like I'm laser focused on today. But to raise money, I think that has become more and more important. Like, how much profit does this make? How much revenue does this make? And how big is the target market? That's always been important, but it's especially important today. So I think that's just something to keep in mind if you're an aspiring founder, if you want to raise money. For me personally, I think the biggest lessons from fundraising have been being resilient and having grit. I pitched my first investor in 2018, and she gave me some great feedback but did not invest. And so I kept in touch with her. I kept sending her updates. I was like, okay, I'm working on this now. I'm talking to these types of users now. And I just kept reaching out. And I officially raised a pre seed round for Smarty in January of 2020. So it took me over a year and a half to actually get that first check. And then once you have that first check, it becomes a little easier to get that second check. And then you kind of keep going. But really, for fundraising, it's all about resilience. Separately, though, if I was a founder today, I would do it totally differently. I would not quit my job to.
Oh, you quit your job.
I was in grad school, so I didn't have to quit my job. I kind of like went from
How are
grad
you
school
surviving?
to like a job, and then I got money, and then I quit my
Okay.
job after I got money to go work on Smarty full time. So I guess I did work. I did quit my job to get started. But once you raise money, I do think you should quit your job and work on it full time because it should be your
Yeah.
like full time effort. But some people like
Yeah.
quit before they've raised money, and I think there's a best way to do it. And I think the best way to do it, based off my experience, like if I was to
Yeah.
do it again, would be if I have an idea, I would try to validate it, and I would try to test it as much as possible before going out to investors. And I think the best way to do that is, if you have an idea, to create a landing page with the value proposition of the idea, build up a wait list of users who are excited. So by a landing page, I
Where
mean,
do we
like,
do that? Where
how
do
do you
we
create?
build it? No. Because I actually had a app that I wanted to develop
Yeah.
and pretty much do the same path as you, but I ultimately, I guess, quit. I still believe it's a $1 billion idea, and I think if somebody executed it properly, um, it would, yeah, be $1 billion business.
So you can
But
start validating that now before like going in and like building it out. So I think that's the
yeah,
biggest
how do we
mistake
do that
I
though?
made
How do
as
we
I
validate
started
it?
like I'm a coder, so I started coding the solution before I knew exactly what it would look like. And if I was to do it again, if I had like that app idea, I would create like 2 or 3 different websites or 2 or 3 different websites, and I would have like different like messaging around it, and then I would run an ad to those different websites and see which messaging works the best. But all 3 websites would have the same waitlist link, same Google form where someone like fills in their email to say like I'm interested in this idea. You can reach out to me to talk about it. So
See,
then,
that's like the technical side.
yeah,
That's the side like I would get stuck on.
well, I think this is so easy to do. You can go to Webflow and just create like they already have templates. You could just like literally take one of the templates, fill it in with information. You can get stock images from like Midjourney or whatever. Um, and just like put in some images, put in some text describing the idea, and then you just have a Google form, like a button that leads to a Google form, and then just have people put in their name, email, and why are they interested in the idea.
Name,
And it
email, and why they're
and you
interested.
can make it all optional, except for the name and email, and then just see who
Mm,
fills it out. Because if they're not even willing to fill out the form, they're not going to take time to talk to you. But you'll be
mm,
surprised at how many people, if you have like the right idea and you talk about it the right way, just like in text, they'll show you that they're interested in the idea. They'll fill out their name and email, and they'll be willing to talk to you for like 15, 20 minutes on a phone call. So the first thing to do is like have these 3 websites, different messaging, have the same Google form embedded in all of them. You'll get like a number of users. Hopefully you get like 50 or 100 people that are like, I'm excited about this idea and I'm willing to talk to you about it. Then you reach out to them and you try to look for patterns. Talk to 50
mm,
users who were interested on like the original idea and just try to understand like what is their day like? What are they doing? Why were they looking for this idea? What are they doing instead of your application or your possible solution? But don't talk about your solution. Just try to understand their lives. Find patterns.
mm.
If you
Like your
find
target audience.
exactly, that's how you find your target audience. 5 or 10 users, they have the same patterns of problems. Okay, now you know kind of like what you're building. So then you go back to yourself, you build a Figma prototype. So you don't like build it out with code or anything. You
What's
don't even
that?
have to build it out with Figma, but like just
What is
build
that?
Figma is a mock-up tool. It like helps you make like a mock-up of your website and then make it interactive. But you don't even have to do that. You could literally
Mm,
like draw it out on pen or paper. But I wouldn't do that. I would
okay.
probably do it at least on like Google Slides or something,
Yeah.
and like show how it would work. Then go back to like the users that you loved the most, and then show them the
Mm,
mock-up, and then try to understand like how are they using it. Do they understand how it works? Does this solve the problem for them? And just keep doing that back and forth, like making a mock-up, testing it with them, making a mock-up, testing it with them, and like figure out exactly what your application is going to look like, exactly how it's going to work. And by that time point, like hopefully you have like hundreds of users who are giving you feedback, just like this mock-up is exactly what I want. It looks exactly like the way I want it to. And if I was using this, I think this could save me like hundreds of dollars every week, or it could save me tens of hours every week, and like get those quotes. Then take
mm.
that to an investor, like an angel investor or whatever,
Okay.
and say, look, I have 100 users who will pay me this much money if I build them this product. Or that's one way to do it. The
Mm.
other way to do it is just get those people to pay you money. Say like, hey, can you invest in me,
Yeah.
and I will make this product and keep it free for you for the rest of your life. Have the users be your initial investors. Either way, though, you can go to a VC with those hundreds of users and like the product that you
That's like
promised to
proof.
build. Yeah, as proof.
Yeah.
And say, please invest in me. I'm going to use this money to go build this product out. I already have users. And I think that's how I would do it if I was going to start a company today.
That's really good.
So do it. If you have that idea, go.
Well, what's your thoughts on it? I'll tell you the thoughts, or I'll tell you the idea. It was called Well, it is called Negotiate Now, and it's basically in the fintech world where it's a cross between OfferUp, eBay, Craigslist, but since it's fintech, it's basically a marketplace where people buy and sell goods, but us as the fintech company will be like backing the people's financing behind it.
Mm-hmm.
And the whole idea was you could basically sell anything on the platform. You could sell your car that you own instead of selling it to the dealership or wherever else you sell cars. You could post it on the app where somebody can give you a financed offer that you negotiate now.
Makes sense. The idea makes a lot of sense to me. I also think this is a really exciting space in general. Just like e-commerce is going through a huge revolution right now, and any sort of like online buying and shopping, selling, it's all like going through this transformation today. So there's a lot of opportunity here. So I think this is a huge opportunity. I think the idea makes a lot of sense. So then it's like, how do you execute on this idea?
Exactly.
Right? Like it is too broad to be like you can sell anything on this platform. So you have to figure out what is like the number one first thing that you want
Like a
to
niche.
sell. Yeah. What is like that first early adopter? And so you need to figure out who that person is, and that's why you use the landing pages to see.
Well,
like
actually, I had an idea for that too. Like, I was brainstorming with people in this like furlough Discord community for small entrepreneurs, and I was brainstorming, and a lot of people thought of like Etsy owners.
Yeah.
So it could also be integrated with Etsy owners as like a financial thing.
Or like Shopify or something. Like I definitely think that's a great idea, but you have to narrow down even more than that. It's like which Etsy owner really wants something like this, right? Like there are a lot of people at Etsy. Some people are okay satisfied, but not so dissatisfied that they would switch to something else. So you have to find that person on Etsy that is like actively looking for a solution. And then you should understand like what are they Googling? What are they looking up? That's why you have the landing pages to help you figure out what that like one target audience person is.
Like
and so,
very, very specific.
Very, very specific. Like the level of specificity I'm saying is I recently saw like a really cool e-commerce startup idea, and they focus on cosplayers. That's it. Just people who like to create cosplay costumes on Etsy. That was their first target audience member. And so like that's the level of specificity you need to find, especially because marketplace solutions are extremely difficult because you have to find both the supply side and the demand side. You need to find like the buyers as well as the sellers. And so you need to like have a very, very specific.
You have to know how both of them think.
Exactly. So it's marketplace ideas are actually really hard to execute on. But if you find that like right initial target audience, so like in this case, that startup founder I was talking to, they looked at cosplayers. So the folks on Etsy, they were super unsatisfied with like the options that Etsy allowed them as a cosplayer costume builder to like sell. And then obviously because there's so few people that like build custom cosplay costumes, the buyers followed them to this new platform because that's where they went and that's where they knew they could have like a high value proposition, high value shopping experience. So I think there's a lot of opportunity. It's all about execution.
Yeah, that was the problem I had with it.
But I think it's worth it. And honestly, like, there are things that you can do passively on the side to help you find that like early adopter, that target audience, the messaging, like how are you going to talk about it and how it's going to attract who you want.
Well, after this, I'll send you the, I think I still have the landing page for it.
Yeah, send it to me.
Send it to you.
Yeah, happy to give advice. Like honestly, I really enjoy this part of it now that I'm like, I mean, I'm not even that far past it, but like, I really like helping people figure out how to get their idea off the ground.
Well, I think that's part of that mentorship, like that you had with that beginning investor that didn't invest in you, but you kind of had like a mentorship from her with the feedback. It's not, I think the best type of mentorship is the people that are still doing the thing, that are maybe just a few steps ahead, and they are willing and able to support you.
Definitely. Yeah, it's funny because like over the years, I've really changed my perspective on mentorship because when you're younger, you're told that like the best mentors are like 5 or 10 years ahead of you and they're like in the position that you want to be in. And like obviously it's nice to have these people that you're aspiring to be, but it's actually not that helpful for you because they did it so long ago. They don't really have like the
Yeah,
actionable
exactly.
advice
Like
you
the
need.
fresh.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so like if you find someone who's just like one step ahead of you or two steps ahead of you, they can look at you and be like, okay, if I was in your shoes today, this is exactly what I would do. As separately from that, I actually think it's also really important to have peers who are mentoring you. So people who are in the same position as you, who are also
Mm.
going through those same challenges. Because when you reach out to a mentor, it sometimes feels like you're asking for a favor and like you're taking up
Uh,
too much of their time. But if you find someone who's
no,
in the
I
same
know that.
position, it's like a friend. It's like you're both giving each other advice, you're both acting as sounding boards.
It's not as like intimidating, kind of.
Also that it's not as intimidating,
Yeah.
it doesn't feel like you're taking up too much time from the other person, and you're both helping each other out, so there's a lot of accountability there. And then the third type of mentorship is like where you are a mentor, where you're mentoring to someone who's like one or two steps behind you. And I think there's a lot of value in that too, because like things are changing so quickly all the time that the person you're like mentoring or advising, they might actually have really good advice for you. Like you're giving them advice,
Oh no,
but
a
they might
hundred
have advice for
percent.
you too. So I think it's important to like grow your community at all levels.
No, that's how I. That's what I tell people about having kids.
Yeah.
When you have kids, they're like little mirrors, and when they do something, and you may get triggered, or you want to yell at them, or tell them to go time out, or do something. When you like take a step back and like look in retrospect, they may be teaching you something about
Totally. I'm a big
like
believer in that.
how can I show up better? How can I do this better?
Definitely.
I have twins, so
Oh wow, that's a lot. Like it's two kids at once going through the
it's
same
not that
thing.
much. It's just two kids.
Yeah, it's two kids. But I feel like twins
No,
can be
it could
like a
get
lot.
a lot.
Yeah. I think kids in general, like anyone who depends on you for information and advice. But I think it's exactly that. It's like a chance for you to reflect on who you want to be.
What, just like mentorship,
Yeah.
like who you want to be? Yeah.
Like
Um,
how do you want to show up for them
yeah, in both ways too. Like as a mentor and maybe a
as someone who's
mentee.
learning? Yeah.
Yeah. So, what is this whole like AI mystification thing?
Yeah. So I think a lot of people today are really intimidated by all of the changes that are coming through AI. But I think
Chat
when
GPT.
ChatGPT, Midjourney is like ChatGPT for images. There's so many new tools coming out every day and so many applications for AI every day. And I think
Yeah.
it's easy to be like, oh, I don't work in the AI space, so I don't need to understand how this works. But the fact is, AI technologies are going to be transforming every industry that's out there today. It's going to change everything from gardening to farming to construction, like every industry that is out there, especially the more not technical it is.
Gardening.
Yeah, it is going to
How's
be
how?
affected by AI because AI, for example, in the example of gardening, like even like home gardening, there are going to be AI technologies that are coming out that are going to look at like the data around how much you water your plants, how you water your plants, things like how much water does this plant need, and it's going to give you recommendations on like what you
Uh,
should be doing. Everything has data. Everything has data around like how much, how to, like what ingredients, past history, and AI takes past data and then provides predictive recommendations about what should come next. So AI is going to transform every industry that's out there. So that doesn't mean that you as a user need to understand how the AI works. In fact, it doesn't matter how the AI tools work. All that matters is that you know how to use an AI tool, that you understand how
mm,
to ask AI for help if you need it. And so I
yeah.
think the number one thing that everyone can do today is to work on their AI literacy, like understanding how AI works. And the best way to do that, I think, is to take your hobbies, things that you enjoy doing, and look
Yeah.
for like an AI tool in that hobby. So if you like composing music, there's so many AI composing music tools out there. Play around with them, like submit some of your work, ask questions of it. If you like to write, use ChatGPT to understand how you can become a better writer with this writing tool. If you're an artist, you should use Midjourney to understand how you can become a better artist with this AI art tool. Anything that you enjoy doing, look for the AI tool equivalent. So if you enjoy
Oh, I
cooking,
do that.
there's a bunch of like, I would just Google like AI cooking tool. And there are like so many new things coming out every day. So just like play around with your hobbies and try to find the tools related to your hobbies. Because if you understand how to use one AI tool in one space, you'll have an understanding of
Like
how
the
that tool
concept.
thinks
Yeah.
and works, and then you can apply it to your job. You could apply it to anything else. So I think for everyone that's out there, like the number one thing you should be investing in today is like your AI literacy, because it's not going to take a lot to become an AI tools expert. And there are new jobs opening up every day for people who understand how to use an AI tool.
What's your favorite AI tool?
My favorite tool, so I use ChatGPT a lot. I like to write for fun. I have to write
Yeah.
for work. It is definitely like my most used, I think, AI tool. But then I also use like other tools. Like I obviously use Smarty. We have a lot of like AI algorithms built into it. I use Otter for like meeting transcriptions
Otter.
and stuff like that. So like analyzing my meetings, telling me like what are my takeaways from this meeting. So I think there's a lot out there, but those are the ones I use most at work.
I use there's this video editing one called Descript that I use when I don't feel like complicating things in
Totally.
Adobe Premiere. And
Yeah.
then I use ChatGPT for not like scripting, but like I'll use it for like keyword ideas or
Totally.
like title ideas, thumbnail ideas, general like summaries of things. And then I have just started using Adobe Firefly Art AI for
Yeah.
thumbnail ideas and like thumbnail art.
Totally. That's like the same as Midjourney.
Firefly.
Adobe Firefly, yeah.
Hmm. So, what about like the future of AI? When I think of AI, when I think of like, I guess let's break it down to like best case, like worst case scenario.
Okay,
Worst
yeah.
case scenario is like the Neuralink gets
Brain computer
created
interface.
and we have like a cyberpunk 2077 video game life, and that gets even further down the line where we go into the matrix theory
Yeah.
where AI takes over the world. What's like that's like the worst case. What's like the best case scenario, you think?
So I'm very optimistic about AI, both in the short term and the long term. I know that in the short term, there's definitely going to be some costs that come with like a new technology, but it's very similar to the Industrial Revolution, where people went from doing very manual labor to losing their jobs and being replaced by factories. But then in the long term, factories opened up so many more jobs, and the Industrial Revolution ultimately created more opportunity for the majority of the population. And so I find that AI will be very similar. I think in the short term, there will be some jobs that will be lost to AI, but in the long term, AI is going to be opening up millions and millions of job opportunities over the next 5 and 10 years. And so the more that you can do today to invest in your AI literacy, the better off you will be as this like future comes to play. But overall, I'm like very optimistic about what AI can do. So we were already talking about like AI for education, AI for healthcare. It At the end of the day, what AI is going to do is it's going to provide more personalized care and more personalized services at lower cost. And that's going to help students, that's going to help healthcare workers, that's going to help the government, it's going to help really every person, regardless of what jobs we're doing. And in terms of like the relationship between humans and I see it as a very symbiotic relationship. It's a partnership where both people provide a lot of value. And so, for example, like when ChatGPT first came out, there was a lot of like cuts and layoffs of copywriters. But then a bunch of copywriters ended up getting hired back because ChatGPT isn't a replacement, it's a tool that makes you better at your job. It makes you faster at your job. It makes you smarter at your job, but it cannot replace what you're doing exactly. And so really the future of AI, I think, is exactly that. It's this symbiotic relationship between the tool, and AI is a tool at the end of the day, and the human that's using that tool. And that's what I see for the future. In terms of like the matrix and the AI taking over and all of that, I actually don't think that will be the future. I think it's going to be continuing to be this evolving relationship between how AI and humans work together. And I think I'm much more optimistic about what that future looks like.
So in like 1,000 years from now.
I think like, I mean, 1,000 years from now, I think it'll still be like us humans, but we're gonna have like our little AI sidekick in our head that like interacts with other people's AI sidekicks. And
See, that's what I'm afraid of, though.
but
Because I
at the
don't.
end of the day, it's like just you. It's just an extension of you. It's like the AI version of you.
Yeah, but then somebody can hack into you.
I think because so this is something we're already seeing today, right? Like it is
Yeah.
becoming easier and easier to create deep fakes, right? And like
Yeah.
hack into people's systems. But at the same time, AI is getting better and better at detecting deep fakes and like creating
Um,
protections against those like cyber hacking insecurities that we have. And
yeah.
so it's actually kind of both, right? Like the more we see of one, the better protection AI is able to provide as well. And I think that's the future too. It's actually, I don't think it'll be that different 500 years from now. We'll just have these assistants, but like those issues of like terrorists and hacking and all of that, it's the same issues we have today. And technology makes our government better at fighting those things.
Well, Elon Musk said it ultimately goes down to the hands of the programmer.
Yeah,
So if that's the problem we run
definitely.
into, right? It's like, what if you have some super smart serial killer that knows how to he all these new technologies, and then he creates some killer Terminator,
Totally.
you
But
know?
I mean, I think of that as like any technology, right? Like the smartest
Mm,
villains have access to really great technology. That's what makes them like really great villains. But at the same time, there's so many heroes who have access to that same
mm,
technology, and their only goal is to like protect the world. And like we see that even today, like our government has entire departments dedicated to cybersecurity and to protection of rights. And I think, of course, it's a concern, but at the end of the day, it's just a tool, and it is like who's in control of those tools. And so that's actually why so many governments today are working so actively to create regulation around AI innovations, transparency around how it's happening. And we're seeing that already. Like we're already seeing like third party companies um, being formed, and their sole job is to like audit the data that builds these AI tools, and their sole job is to like investigate like how is this tool being created, is it safe enough, is it unbiased enough, because
mm,
AI is so dependent on data, right? It is based off what you feed it. And so if you feed an AI tool, like some of these art tools, only data that shows like white men in boardrooms, then when you ask for a boardroom, it's going to show a room filled with white men. It's not going to show the socioeconomic diversity, the racial diversity, the
diversity.
gender diversity that is actually our society. But because of that, more and more companies are like, okay, audit our data, tell us, is this representative of the sample set that we should see? Are we feeding our AI tools the right types of data? What should we be feeding it more or less of? And so I think we're all aware of the problems, especially the people who are working on these tools, and they're trying to be transparent around like how are we fixing these problems. And that I think, as like the users of these tools, we have to be aware of these biases, and we should also be
Mm,
like demanding the right changes. It's kind of like climate change. Like you have to be aware that this is an issue. You have to be aware like what can you demand from like corporations so that they are also creating sustainable solutions. And I think we've like seen that like more and more users of like these corporations are demanding, hey, I want clean energy, I want sustainable practices. And so these companies and corporations have to listen. And it's the same thing with AI. Like we have to demand like unbiased data. We need to demand something that like represents the general population. And I think we're already seeing that happen.
What are your thoughts on programming AI consciousness?
I think we're a long way off. Like really, like we really are. Like sentience is not around the
Yeah.
corner. Like consciousness is not going to be
But
here in like the
1,000 years,
next
though.
year.
1,000
No, I think in 1,000 years
years.
there could be some sort of consciousness. I don't know what that looks like. It's hard to say. And I'm not sure how scary or how scared we should be of that future, because we always imagine sentience as like the same sentience that we have as humans.
That's
And I
what
think
I was thinking.
I don't know if like sentience for computers is going to be the same thing. It's actually funny. Okay, so I had this debate with someone recently.
Yeah.
Are plants sentient?
You said are plants?
Yeah, like do plants have consciousness?
Are you asking me?
I'm asking like what you think. There's no right answer here, by the way.
I think they might, but since it's kind of like, I think they might, because it's kind of like animals. Like we can't speak with animals, but we can see they're alive. We know animals feel emotions. They have like instincts,
Definitely.
but we don't know their language.
Yeah. And I think
So
that
like,
will be something we'll solve as well. Like we'll be able to communicate with animals better. Animals are 100% sentient, right? Like they feel emotions.
yeah,
Like you said, they have thoughts. We might not be able to understand those thoughts and those emotions, but they definitely have them. And so some
that's how
people,
I feel about plants.
I feel that about plants as well. I do believe that plants are sentient, but this is not like an agreed upon conclusion. There are a lot of people that think plants are not sentient, but there have also been studies where they show plants, the same plant,
Oh
but one has
yeah.
music and like has like an environment of like people talking to the plant, and then one has an environment
No.
with like nothing. And the plants in the environment
Yeah.
with music and conversation tend to grow and flourish more. And I personally think that is like some sort of evidence of sentience. But
No,
it's
there
not.
was another one where it was something similar, where there were there was a plant where they just praised it with love and
Mhm.
joy and great and like gratitude, and like basically like you would a baby.
Yeah.
And then they took another one and they like cursed at it. I hate you, like, and I'm pretty sure like it had the effect that you would assume. Like the one with praise like
Flourished.
flourished, and the one like you curse at every day just
Kind of withered. Yeah, I could
yeah.
totally. I've like seen a lot of studies around that. It is a repeatable study, and like I think that is a sign of sentience. But a lot of scientists debate like, is that sentience or is that something else, right? And that's my exact point with AI. Like AI consciousness might not look like human consciousness. Like a AI that is fully conscious might not have the same human emotions of like ambition or like taking over the world. Like that might not be something that like AI even cares about, even if it is
or a soul.
conscious. Yes. And so I don't think AI is conscious today. And I don't think we're anywhere near AI becoming conscious. But if AI did become conscious, I don't think we need to automatically assume the
Like
most
worst case
negative, yeah, the
scenario.
worst case scenario.
I think that's just our natural like human instinct.
And I think it's good to be
Yeah.
prepared for the worst case scenario. I think it's good for us to think about what is that worst case scenario and then how do we prevent it. But I don't think we should assume that that worst case scenario is inevitable, because it's not.
Yeah, it's like thinking of like, I don't know, like the first time the cannonball was invented or something.
Yeah.
Like what are we gonna do with that cannonball? Like that ship has cannonballs. We don't.
Yeah.
I don't
No,
know.
but it's
Something
true.
like that.
There's always a short-term cost when things change. And it's the same with like nuclear energy, for example. Like obviously it can be used to create devastating war, but it can also be used to create clean energy and like sustainable like practices around green energy. And so I think like anything,
Yeah.
AI is a tool. It can be it's like fire. It can be used to warm your house or it can be used to burn it down. And all we can do as the users is be aware of how we're using it, what's the worst case scenario, and then put in guardrails to prevent that.
Yeah.
It's a fun topic.
Yeah, I feel like, I mean, it's something you could talk about forever, to be honest. But before we move on, do you have anything else you'd like to cover?
No, I think we covered like a lot of my thoughts on AI, which I am very optimistic.
Me too. I just wanted to know your thoughts on like those
worst case scenarios.
Yeah, because I mean, you like Terminator could be a thing.
And we should be prepared for it, but I don't think it's likely.
Yeah, I don't think so either. I don't think there's gonna be killer robots.
Yeah.
I mean, if there is, just be armed and ready for the apocalypse, I guess.
Totally.
But
I think about that anyway.
No, me too. It's just fun. It's a fun like thought
exercise
game to play. Yeah, to think of.
I think about like the zombie apocalypse. I think about like Cold War apocalypse. Like I think it's good to be prepared for the worst case scenario. Sorry, what?
What's the Cold War apocalypse?
Oh, like if we go to war and there's like a nuclear war or something, and like we like lose resources or lose internet access, a cyber attack.
Oh, like
there's so many ways that you could have like an apocalypse situation.
Like an EMP.
Yeah.
Like destroys all of our electric or something.
Totally.
And nobody has electric.
I think about like all of these. It's just like TV shows, or it's in a game or an exercise.
Well, before we move on, what is your favorite fantasy book?
Favorite fantasy book? Oh, well, you can see Lord of the Rings up here, and I do like Lord of the Rings, but I don't know if I would say it's my favorite fantasy. I enjoy fantasy a lot, though. I read a lot. Like I read like Name of the Wind recently. I've read like Game of Thrones, A Song of Ice and Fire. I've read Harry Potter. I've read a lot of like Brandon Sanderson, like Mistborn. I don't know what my favorite is. My favorites change all the time, but like I liked all of those books.
What's one that you felt like most connected with?
I guess maybe Mistborn, because I like that it has a strong female character in it. I liked A Song of Ice and Fire a lot because of that, but I really like science fiction fantasy, and I feel like I haven't read a lot of really great science fiction fantasy. Like I like Expanse, which takes place in space, and then I guess Ready Player One was pretty fun too. I don't know. What about you? Do you like fantasy?
Yeah. Well, I don't. I just read like self-help and like health books and stuff.
I do too.
But the way I get my fantasy, I don't know what you want to call it, like fantasy craving, I watch anime.
Oh yeah.
And there's this new anime that I mean, if you watch anime and if you're interested, there's this new anime called Metallic Rouge.
Okay.
I mean, has a strong female character as a protagonist.
Amazing.
And it's based in like the near future where we like colonized Mars, and there was a war between the first colonies in Mars and the I forget what they're called. They're like cyborgs. Mm-hmm. They're like part human, part kind of like if we integrated with
totally
integrated like and try to heal it up. It's in like that's like the world.
And I love it. Okay, I'm definitely gonna check it out. The anime that I watched most recently for the first time ever was Attack on Titan, and I really liked it. It was a lot of fun. I cried a lot.
Post-apocalyptic
yeah.
world.
And then this reminded me of another book that I liked a lot as a kid, but I haven't read recently, which was Ender's Shadow. Like Ender's Game, Ender's Shadow was the
Yeah.
sequel. And I think that was like my favorite fantasy book as a kid. And then, or like sci-fi book. It's more sci-fi than fantasy. And then my favorite sci-fi show as a kid was Firefly. I don't know if you heard of it. It was by Joss Whedon, who also made Buffy the Vampire Slayer. And I was a big Buffy fan. And so Firefly was like the show I watched. It was like my favorite sci-fi show as a kid.
You're a Twilight fan too?
No, I hated Twilight.
It's cringe.
Yeah, so bad. No, Twilight was like Twilight ruined vampires for like my entire generation of like peers, because I loved Buffy. Buffy was so good. And
that was your vampire.
Was
kid,
not for
Twilight.
me. Okay. A sci-fi book that I really liked recently, so not fantasy but sci-fi again, was Three Body Problem. And they're coming out with a Netflix show for it, and I'm really excited. I think it's going to be really good. Problem. Yeah.
What's like the general synopsis of that?
So, Three Body Problem is like this like the title. That's the title of the book. Is this hypothetical situation where if you have a planet and it's surrounded by 3 different suns, like the effects that it has on the planet, and it's about humanity on Earth knowing that an alien invasion is coming, and it's like, how do you deal with that problem? Because it's going to take place over hundreds of years before they actually end up on Earth. And so how do we as a society like come together to solve this problem or to find a solution and like to have humanity survive? I think, I'm not sure about the author. It was originally written in Chinese and translated to English. I don't know if the author intentionally meant for it to be a climate change analogy, but I think it is. I think it is like, we have this problem. It's going to take hundreds of years before it really affects us. But like, we need to like start making changes today. More
like millions of years.
Yeah. Well, no, I think climate change is going to like start affecting a lot of things.
I mean like on that scale. Like,
oh, yeah.
When we start really like, oh man, the sun is getting too hot, or we go to another ice age, it's inevitable. It is inevitable. Maybe not in our lifetime, but millions of years from now.
But like the things that we're doing to like make it worse, that's probably going to affect us in like the next 5 to 10 generations. And so like, how do we today band together to like change that? And I think it's like the same thing. It's like, okay, this is going to affect someone 10 generations from me. What can we do today to help them?
Yeah.
Highly recommend. Great book.
No, it sounds fun. I like those style of books and movies and fantasy where they put you in like an apocalyptic world.
Yeah, I think the TV show is going to do a good job. So hopefully, it's about to come out.
Well, one similar to that I recently watched it's on Apple TV, and it was about like they were stuck in a pillar or something.
Silo.
Yeah,
totally. I watched that. It's also based off a book series. I haven't read the book. I'm really into
that one was sci-fi. Good. It was like that's what I'm talking about, like that apocalyptic world where, and you still don't know like at the end.
Yeah.
It's like,
happening?
Is it really toxic outside? Or is it all a simulation? Is it like what is?
Yeah, I don't want to give spoilers necessarily for listeners, but I have my own theories around what's happening. And that actually reminded me, the main character from Silo is the mom on Dune, the movie. And that is
I love that actress. She's a good actress.
She's a great actor. And like the fantasy book, Dune is a great fantasy book.
I love Dune too. I still have to go see the new one.
Oh, it's so good. I watched it. It's good.
I have to rewatch, like, because I haven't watched the first one since it came out, so I have to like
rewatch it,
refresher.
Yeah, I did rewatch it before going to the.
Yeah, I have to.
It was worth it.
Refresher.
But I had friends who just went and watched, and they were like, "Oh yeah, I followed."
It's still good.
Yeah, it's still good.
It's funny if you see like the old version.
Yeah, they're so bad.
Horrible, like the.
No,
That old one is cringe.
Oh my god, so cringe. When I read the book for the first time, I immediately wanted to go watch a show. So I started watching the TV show that came out in like 1984. And it was so bad. I got through like 10 minutes and I was like, I can't watch this.
Have you ever seen one of my favorite, like, I guess cringy old school movies like that when like technology was still developing is The Fly?
Oh yeah, I haven't seen
You
it,
ever seen
but
that?
yeah.
Man, that is, if you're into like sci-fi horror movies, you have to watch that one. It's
Okay,
so
okay, I'll
good.
check it out.
The Fly with the actor from, he was in like all the first Jurassic Parks.
Yeah,
Forget I
the
forget his name.
he's so famous. I know who you're talking about. The guy that's in the bathroom in the first movie.
I think so.
Yeah.
He has glasses. Well, he becomes a fly, and it's just it's super good.
I don't remember his name, but I know who you're talking about. I think it's funny.
But let's play this game.
Okay, let's do it.
So it's completely randomized. There's, like I said, there's like 1,000 different possibilities. There's like 50 prompt cards and like 300 story cards. So the first, oh no, I already did that one. The prompt is share something unforgettable, and the story to go along with it is oh man, this is funny. Can you read that?
Share something unforgettable, a kink I don't understand. Okay. I don't understand. It's hard. So, do they have to go together? Share something unforgettable?
Yeah. That's how it works. Is like this, like the prompt and then the context.
Yeah, makes sense. I'm trying to think. Okay, well, I don't know if this is like I don't know if this is a kink I don't understand, because like I definitely do understand it, because I like we were talking about Buffy the Vampire Slayer, right? Like I've watched a lot of like a young teenage hero and like an older like vampire who's lived for like centuries, um like that
I think I know where you're
trope.
going.
Like I understand it, but and it's like so popular right now. So like a bunch of fantasy books that are like very popular right now is like A Court of Thorns and Roses. I don't know if you've heard of it, ACOTAR. It's like it's very big on Book Talk. It's a big fantasy series, and it's the same sort of concept. There's like this fairy world, and like the fairies are immortal. They live for thousands of years, and then there's like the human love interest that's like 17 years old. And maybe it's because I'm older, I'm like, it doesn't make sense. Like, why would like a 300-year-old person be interested in a 17-year-old? And so I guess that is something that I don't understand. And I still read it. Like, I still read A Court of Thorns and Roses.
Wait, on what side would you be on? Would you be the older one or the younger one?
Well, I'm usually, I guess, like the. It's a good question. So I would, of course, love to be immortal. Who wouldn't love to be immortal?
What? Really?
Do you not think so?
There's so many downsides.
There are a lot of downsides. It would suck if you're the only one that's immortal, but I mean, like living in an immortal society.
Oh, that's different.
Where all of your family and friends are immortal. Like
that's different.
I would definitely like choose to be the immortal one. But there's something like beautiful about being human, and there's also something like amazing about being like the human protagonist that's going on an adventure. And so I like when I'm reading a book, I'm in the eyes and like shoes of the protagonist, who's going on this adventure. But as a older adult, I wouldn't mind like living forever with my family.
How old are you?
I'm 32.
Why do you say older adult?
Oh, because I'm not like a teenager. Because like that's when I like started really like reading these books, right? Like I was into Buffy when I was like in high school, and
oh yeah, that makes sense.
Like when you're in high school, I think it like seems so exciting to be like with like a 200-year-old vampire. And now I'm like, why does the 200-year-old vampire want to hang out with this 16-year-old? It doesn't make any sense.
Well, something, another like animated show I started watching about a comic that they reanimated on Amazon called Invincible.
Oh yeah.
The guy in there, they're like kind of like Superman. He had a half Superman son and his wife of 20 years living, like, just to give context, he lives like thousands of years.
Yeah.
And then he had a kid with this mortal being that during the whole season we thought he was a good guy, but then he becomes a villain, and at the end he's basically like, yeah, they're just immortal, like they're just mortal like pets kind of. I see them as pets.
Humans are like
it's
ants.
fun to have.
Yeah.
Like it's fun to have some fun with it for a little bit, but you know, you're just like a speck in my existence.
Totally. No, exactly. And it's funny because the book that I talked about, Three Body Problem, it's the same thing. Like the aliens think of humans as like ants.
Mm.
And like maybe you could have a connection with someone, but it's such a different perspective.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, I've seen Invincible, so I know what you're talking about. The dad, yeah.
Yeah, it's really good.
It's good. I'm a big fan of like superhero shows in general. I watch The Boys as well.
Oh, I still haven't finished that one. I was on like the season where Homelander is starting to like really not give a fuck. Like,
Yeah,
he's like
going insane.
Yeah, he's like, I don't care anymore. Like, and he keeps having like flashbacks of like, or not flashbacks, like visions of him just destroying everything.
Totally, yeah.
He's like, F y'all, like.
I do really like The Boys. The writer, he used to write Supernatural too, which was a show I watched in high school.
Oh, I never seen that one. I heard of it.
Like it's fun, but it's like it's not like quality television. I like The Boys a lot more.
It's not quality.
It's enjoyable. It's still really good. And like I do like it has a good story arc for sure.
I like to just call those types of shows like they're like good pastimes. Like it's good to like just turn on, maybe cook some food in the background.
Totally. I think Supernatural is like a great show for that, and it's like it's fun.
Yeah. Well, Denzil Eden, like the Garden of Eden. You ready for these last 5 questions?
I am.
First question: what is your biggest regret?
My biggest regret. It's funny because if you would ask me like a year, or should this be fast, or can I just like?
As long as it doesn't go past 2 hours.
Yeah. Okay. So it's funny because like if you would ask me a couple of years ago, I feel like have a ton of regrets. I'd be like, oh, I wish I'd done this differently at school. I wish I'd like started Smarty in a different way. I wish I had done these other things. And now I'm like in this like stage of life or like mindset today where I realized that like I've heard people say before, like, don't have regrets, like it doesn't matter. And I've gotten to this point recently. It's not that you shouldn't have regrets. It's just that like my life is now at a point where like the regrets don't matter because they're like, I'm happy with where I am today. And I wouldn't be here if I hadn't had those like mistakes. And also those like mistakes don't matter in terms of like my life today. And so I feel like I kind of understand a little bit more like where that mindset comes from, where like regrets don't matter. Because like I've like fixed those mistakes that I've made in the past by having the life I want to have today. I don't know if that makes sense.
No, yeah, that makes sense. It's basically like, that's why this is kind of like a trick question, because your regrets and mistakes are basically just like a culmination of lessons that ultimately made you who you are today.
Exactly.
And without those you wouldn't be the same person.
So I can't regret that. So exactly. So I don't know.
Do
I
you
think
have
when
any
I was
big failures, or what was like the mistake, or what was like a mistake that you, I don't want to say traumatized by, but like that you just, it's engraved, like, oh man, like, yeah.
I think we talked a little bit about it in the call today. Like, I definitely made mistakes with Smarty. Like, I had this mindset like build the product and then users will come, and that wasted a lot of time and money and energy and resources, and I regretted it for a long time. But also, I am where I am today with Smarty because I made that mistake,
Yeah.
and I know what I know today because of that. And so if I
Mm.
was going to start a startup again, or if I'm like mentoring someone who is starting a startup, I can like teach them based off the mistakes that I've made. And I can also know how to, one, start a startup in the future better, but also how to run Smarty better today. And, like, I think that was like a big regret I had for a long time. And I'm finally like
Let it go.
letting it go.
Proud of you.
Thank you.
uh, Next question is, who or what has made the biggest impact in your life that makes you who you are today?
Definitely my parents. I'm an only child, and my
Oh, I can
parents.
tell. No, I'm just kidding.
No, but like, I mean, honestly, maybe. Like, my parents have like shaped so much of my worldview as a woman, as a immigrant, as a founder, as someone in tech. Like, every perspective I have was shaped by my childhood and by my parents. Even today, they're a huge sounding board for me, and so they're probably the biggest influence on my life and who I am.
If people don't know, what's like your background?
I'm Indian, and my parents moved here when I was 3 years old, and I don't know, like it's a big part of.
Oh,
I
you're
don't.
first generation?
I am, yeah, and I don't know necessarily like
Me too.
being Indian is like a big part of like who I am. Like, I'm obviously Indian, but I think it's more just like, willing to like make the choices and move to like have the best opportunities and like finding what's best for you. There's so many things about like who my parents are, how they got together, that have like shaped my view on the world.
What's your favorite food?
My favorite food. So I love anything noodles. Like, I love ramen. I love pasta. I also really
Anything
like
noodles.
potatoes, like potato dishes.
So
So
you're
I
a
love,
carb girl.
yeah, I'm like, I love carbs. It's not great, but I do. I love carbs.
Do you like brioche?
I do like brioche, but actually, okay, so a big icebreaker that like a lot of friends and I have sometimes is like, okay, if you had to give up one thing for the rest of your life, like potatoes or like bread, and like all of the things that come with that, which one would you give up? And I would 100% give up bread and just have like potato dishes for the rest of my life. So like, no more pastries, no more pizza. Like, I would just like happily just have like things based off potatoes.
So gnocchi's.
Yeah, gnocchi is a potato-based pasta, and
Yeah.
so like pastas are great for me.
So what's your favorite potato dish?
I really like dosa. I don't know if you've heard of
What's
it.
that?
It's a South Indian dish. So I'm North Indian, but it's a South Indian dish where it's like a crepe, but you put like, I like masala dosa where you put like savory potatoes inside, and then it comes with a bunch of like curries and chutneys that you can eat it with.
No, I only asked. I mean, that sounds good.
It's so
I
good.
only I only asked because Indian is like my favorite.
There's
Like
so
I
many good
love like the spice. Man, I have to have spice, and India
too.
is like the spice capital of
It
the
is.
world. Like,
Indian food and Thai food, like really good spices.
oh yeah, Thai. Thai could be too spicy sometimes. Like I'll get pad Thai and like it'll be
Totally.
like a Taco Tuesday. Like,
The Thai spice levels are a different scale for sure.
but yeah, Indian is my favorite.
What's your favorite Indian food?
Man, I don't know. I just love curries.
Hmm.
Like a good
Me too.
good
I love curry.
curry and rice with like
That's why I like
all
Thai food a
the
lot too. Great curries.
yeah, with like all the veggies and
Yeah.
stuff, like where the veggies not like hard, it just like kind of just falls and melts in your mouth. And
Totally. No, I get it.
it's
Curries
such a
and
comfort food. It's such a comfort food. I could eat that forever.
same. I'm a big fan.
But next question is, what is one lesson that you had to learn the hard way?
Oh, it comes back to that that Smarty lesson, like build and your users will come. Like building a solution is not the right way to like create a company or to build anything. You have to be like validating with your users and understanding like their needs, their ways of working. And so that's definitely like the mistake that I'm like ready to stop making.
What about in relationships?
Relationships. I think one thing that I've like learned is that you should never take anything personally.
Mm,
Like everyone is kind of like doing what's best for them at that point in their life, and like obviously there are people who mean badly or have bad intent, but in
yeah.
general you should always assume positive intent, that people are trying the
Mm,
best that they can, and it's not about you. It might be about something else if someone has like a negative interaction with you. And I think that's like also really true for fundraising. Like if an investor says no today, it just means no right now. It doesn't mean no forever. And so you shouldn't be taking like no's that you get in a professional context as like permanent and like as like something that's against you. It's just part of the journey.
yeah, and if you did take it like to heart, you know, I actually made a post about that. Um, like it was like people. Uh, I'll send it to you after this.
Yeah, please. I would love to read it.
It's like people you wouldn't know if they gave up,
Right.
and like I put myself at the end, but I put Elon Musk, I put Apple, like Steve Jobs, a bunch of like Jeff Bezos, like a bunch of like huge entrepreneurs, and it's like you wouldn't know them if they just gave up when the first time they heard no, you know.
I heard like this piece of advice recently, which is very similar to that, which is like your biggest job as a founder is to not quit. Like
Mm.
you just have to just keep going.
And then that just goes back to like your reason why, like
Yeah.
why are you doing this? Because if you don't have that strong enough, like I guess purpose and like conviction behind what you're doing, that's you're going to be more susceptible to giving up.
Definitely.
So you have to think bigger picture, longer timeline, get away from like the instant gratification, um, and do celebrate like your small wins in the process.
Definitely. Celebrating small wins is, I think, like one of the number one things that keeps me going. And it's really important to do. And I don't know if you've heard of Ikigai. The
Mm.
Yeah, so that's like my like how I think about why, like how to find your
No,
why.
I love Ikigai.
Yeah.
Yeah. I that's why I always tell people I'm like I'm not religious. I take bits and pieces of like every culture
Same here.
and like Ikigai, the Bible, Stoicism, the Bhagavad Gita. Um, I take like bits and pieces from all of those that help me, I guess, help guide me
Through
throughout
life.
my life.
Yeah, I love
Yeah.
that. That's beautiful. Yeah, my parents, they're from two different religions, and so I feel like I
Mm,
also feel very strongly in that way, like taking the best of whatever you see, what works for
mm,
you, like across
yeah.
religions, across cultures, across people.
Yeah, I'm definitely spiritual. I'm not like religious. I wouldn't say like I focus solely on one God. Um, if we were to like talk about it, I'd probably say all of our gods that we believe in are probably the same person or same thing
Yeah,
um,
I would say I'm
on like
like
a deeper level.
agnostic and also spiritual.
Yeah. Well, next question. What would you want to experience if you had all the time and all the money in the world?
What would I like to experience if I had all the time
Or
and
what
all
would
the
you
money?
do?
I think I think I would like to. Okay, so there it's like a two-part answer. Like I would really like to like write and learn and like help other people learn.
But I thought you didn't like teaching.
It's not that I didn't like teaching, it's more that I don't love like teaching as it's done today with lectures
Mm,
and just students taking notes. Like it's not. I don't think it's the best way to learn. And so if I could like, I like originally wanted to start an ed tech company like right out of
mm,
college, and I sometimes at that time I didn't think I could be a founder. I didn't think being a founder was for me, and so I didn't pursue it. But sometimes I wish I had pursued it. Um, but in general, like I think education is so important, and I think a lot of learning should be self-paced, and I wish there was
mm.
like more tools and platforms that like made that possible. And I think
That is
I want that for myself too. Like I wish that I could just like learn forever. And so if I had all the time and money, I think that's what I would want to do. I think I would just like to like spend time like learning in like ways like optimized for me, and then like white like as part of that like learning experience.
That's all you do?
Yeah, and like that could come in so
I'm
many
just kidding.
forms, right? Like learning could be like traveling the world and like
Mm,
studying history like at the pyramids of Egypt. Like
like Tomb Raider style?
yeah, but really like making my experiences and just like learning every day. Like I think that would be such a beautiful life.
No, I agree with that. I think that's where part of our education system isn't optimized.
Yeah.
Is where it's like not everyone learns at the same pace. Not everyone wants to learn the same thing. And my like take on the education system is I think it should be like, yes, there should be a time and place you learn the fundamentals, how to read, write, basic math. But then I think there should be like a early turning point, kind of like a college,
Yeah.
but a lot sooner
Where you can
than
specialize.
12 years. Yeah, where you specialize at a much younger age. uh I don't know what age, maybe like science could tell that, but
Or whenever you're ready, really.
yeah, where you just optimize at a younger age and you become a master sooner.
I love that. And then like I've thought about that as well. And then like also like having resources available for learning for adults as well. So that once you've become a master in one thing, you've done it a few years and you want to change, you want to become a master in something else, it's easy to go back to school and learn as an adult. I think there should be more emphasis on adult education, adult programs if they want it.
And how to learn. One
How
of
to
my
learn.
favorite books is by Jim Quick. He wrote Limitless.
Yeah.
I don't know if you heard
I
of it.
haven't read it, but I've heard of it.
It's so good on basically like everything learning, like
Yeah.
how we learn, why we learn, and basically ultimately it comes down to like we should be learning how to learn better
I think that's
and
so
not
true.
like exactly what to learn. Like you need to learn geometry or whatever in high school.
I agree. I think how to learn is like the most useful life skill you can have.
Yeah, especially on like an individual level
Hmm.
too.
Definitely.
But Denzil, is there you have any last words?
This was a lot of fun. Great conversation.
Any last words you'd like to resonate with the audience?
Keep learning. Stay curious. Life is just an adventure about exploring.
So explore, be adventurous, and as always, everyone, stay curious, keep going. You got this.
You got this.
Peace.